Liwei stood frozen for a brief moment before grabbing his cell phone, his eyes darting to the time on the screen. Reality slammed into him. Time was slipping through his fingers. He was supposed to meet Master Shen, and every second he remained trapped inside the house pushed him closer to failure. He rushed to the door again, entering different pins, his movements sharp and urgent. But none worked. He stopped abruptly, forcing himself to breathe. Triggering the security lockout would only make things worse. Frustration tightening his chest, he turned and rushed down the hallway, heading for the bedroom. Empty. He called out her name, his voice echoing back unanswered. He checked the bathroom. Nothing. The spare rooms. Still nothing. Panic began creeping in as he glanced at his watch again. Time was no longer just ticking. It was running. Sooner or later, Master Shen would call. He grabbed his phone and dialed her number, only to hear it ringing nearby. His gaze shifted to the living room table where her phone lay abandoned. His chest tightened. He called out to her again, his voice softer now, calling her babe, telling her not to do this, begging her to understand. Understand that he had to do this, not only for himself but for her too. Silence answered him. A sudden thought struck him. The science lab. He spun around and rushed toward it, pushing the door open and scanning the space as he called out for her again. As he moved deeper inside, his eyes shifted toward the corner. And there she was. Curled up against the wall, her body folded into itself, shoulders shaking as sobs tore through her. His heart shattered at the sight. He rushed to her side and dropped to his knees in front of her, calling her babe, telling her not to do this, pleading with her to understand why he had to go. He told her this was the only way they could finally be together, finally start their life without the past hanging over them. This was something that could not be avoided. She didn't look at him. Her face remained buried against her knees as she continued sobbing, refusing to meet his eyes. He leaned closer, calling her name again, telling her how much it hurt to see her like this. Slowly, she lifted her head. Her eyes were red, swollen, exhausted from crying. His chest tightened painfully. He reached out and gently wiped her tears, promising her that he would try his best to come back, that he would fight with everything he had, that he would return to her unharmed. He begged her to unlock the door. He told her he couldn't delay any longer. She stared at him silently. He leaned in again, his eyes pleading, his voice breaking as he told her he couldn't bear seeing her like this. Finally, she spoke. If he didn't want to see her like this, then he shouldn't go. He should stay. Her voice trembled as she told him she knew the mission was important, that she knew he had been planning it since he was a teenager, but she couldn't bear the thought of losing him. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed she was scared, truly scared, for the first time in her life. She told him it felt the same way it had when her mother died, that familiar dread clawing at her chest, suffocating her. The possibility of never seeing him again terrified her. The thought of being left alone once more shattered her completely. Her body trembled as she sobbed uncontrollably. Liwei sat there, stunned by the depth of her pain, realizing just how heavy this was for her, how overwhelming it had become. He told her she had known about all this before their relationship grew serious. He had been honest with her from the start. He had told her about the mission, the risks, the danger. She had promised she would stay, that she would understand. He couldn't comprehend why everything had changed so suddenly. She looked at him through tears and told him she thought it would be easier. She never imagined it meant he would be facing death. She knew she was supposed to understand, but she couldn't. It was tearing her apart, breaking her piece by piece. He touched her face gently, trying to make her see that he understood how hard this was, but that he had no choice. Her tear-filled eyes remained locked on his as she told him he did have a choice. He could stop. He could put an end to it. He could stop chasing revenge that might cost him his life and choose to live instead. She told him it didn't have to be this way. He didn't have to carry so much hatred, letting it consume him, letting it drag him toward his own destruction. She held his hands tightly, her eyes pleading, asking him if it was possible. He said nothing. He only looked at her, his mind in chaos, emotions clashing violently inside him. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with certainty. The mission could not be abandoned. It was the most important part of his life. Revenge was no longer something he pursued. It was part of him, embedded in his blood, etched into his soul. It could not be separated from who he was. She asked him if revenge was so important that he was willing to sacrifice their love for it. The words weighed heavily on him. He reminded her that she had known the risks from the beginning. This was part of being with him. He had to avenge his family. Before he could say more, his phone rang. He froze. Master Shen's name lit up the screen. In that moment, Liwei knew there was no more time. He had to leave. He had to find a way out. Time was no longer on his side, and he could not delay any longer.